I am ready, Raj. I'm ready for another big
Ready for
day
what?
of the Inglorious Pastords.
Oh, it's glorious.
It is. You know what the thought I had this morning before we get into the actual podcast and the song we're doing today and all that
We
good
can
stuff?
ramble a little bit before
Okay.
we get into the meat of the music, as they say.
So I realize at 61, all right, my body hurts all the time now because, I'm farming now, all the farm stuff and fixing stuff and put a new assembly pulley system on the front of the truck, and you had to pull out the alternator and you had to pull out the power steering pump and the thermostat and the
I'm getting
timing belt
tired.
house. I mean, just to get to it. But I realized, and I told you last weekend, I ended up doing this on the side of the road, literally putting a serpentine belt on and doing all this crazy stuff on the side of the road. But here's the thought that I had: youth is wasted on the young. Because when I was young, my body, I had unlimited energy and brute strength. Okay, I just didn't know how to do anything. No, seriously, I couldn't fix anything. I couldn't build
This
anything.
is true,
I couldn't
yes.
repair
Right,
anything. I
right,
mean, you and David at least had
right.
some rudimentary skills at fixing, repairing, building.
Yep.
I was a guy that just wrote a check for simple things. Can you install a commode? Oh, I'll write you a check, which I realize that's the simplest thing in the world. But if you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And
Of
I realized
course.
when I was young, I didn't know anything. I knew the rudimentary things that Grandpa Martin taught me. Like I knew how to use a handsaw and a hammer.
Right.
Although turns out I was not great with those. Nearly cut my finger off with a handsaw, pounded my thumb into oblivion with a hammer. So
Right.
thankful for
We
technology.
kept tools away from Bruce for his own good.
Now I can build anything
Oh, I know.
from scratch. I can
It's
fix
crazy.
anything. I can remodel anything. I can fix vehicles. I'm working on a John Deere Gator right
Put
now.
new windows in a concrete wall.
Yeah, I mean
You
it's just
cut out and put I am so
I taught
impressed.
Roger how to install mini splits last
He
week.
did.
I mean, which is
I'm
a heating and air system, only smaller. But I realized I don't have unlimited energy and I sure don't have brute strength. It's like when I pick up my tea, I'm like, oh man, my elbow hurts. Mm, wow.
That's the only lifts I'm doing right now with my
That's
tea.
Roger, my hands literally sometimes at night will just cramp. Like they go, "Oh,"
You are so old.
and I can't. I'm like, Marlena, help, help, I can't. I can't. It's not. I'm like, it's just interesting in the way that God worked everything out. Young people have these bodies that can do stuff, but they don't know how to do anything.
I don't have a brain to go with
It's
it.
just crazy. And I'm like, man, what? Not that I'm trying to like re-engage youth, but I'm like, I wish I knew then what I know now in terms of doing things. I could have saved $100,000
Right.
just in having people fix, repair, or build things for me.
Yep.
So I don't know. That was my thought of the day. I'm so old. I think I shared this a couple of weeks ago, and I did it. But I found myself doing it yesterday. I'm working on a John Deere Gator, which is 2008, like a workhorse side by side for the farm. Got over 2,300 bucks. Having to replace a couple of things. But I realized every time I bend over, I really do. I check to see if there's anything else I need to get while I'm down there because I'm like I'm not. I don't want to have to go down again. So just Bruce's thoughts on age and whatnot.
All right. One quick trivia question,
Okay.
because I came across this and these things fascinate me. So hopefully they'll fascinate our
Is
listeners
it
and
about
viewers.
Masters Weekend? Because as we're recording this, it's Masters Week.
It has nothing to do with that whatsoever.
Tiger Woods 49. Be interesting to see if he could win at 49. Go ahead.
Um, so in the last year, the city of Huntsville,
Yeah.
in which I live, um,
Reside.
has had two big land annexations. Not Greenland, but
Not Canada.
but these were actually people who wanted them to. I mean, so some pretty large.
They wanted in on the show.
So it moved Huntsville up in terms of national U.S. cities by land area.
We were already bigger than Atlanta,
We're already bigger than a number of
which is,
cities.
but think how crazy that is. Millions of people, quarter of a million people.
Right. And part of it even comes down to now you look at even with Atlanta, like, so what is Atlanta City and then the
Metropolitan area.
metropolitan
Yeah.
area? and that always gets in.
Oh yeah.
But
You got Windy Hill, Smyrna, Cummings, all that, just part of that area. Marietta.
But Huntsville is now, I think, the 27th largest U.S. city by land area.
Land area. Yeah.
So it's bigger than like Philadelphia, New Orleans. That one surprised me because I think of that like having a lot of land area. Anyway, it was just
No,
a
I remember
fun.
when I was looking up demographics on Huntsville, and it talked about them having more square footage than Atlanta. I'm like,
Right.
that's just crazy. And again, when you add all the metro areas, it's a different game. And
Right.
I wonder even how much of those metro areas didn't want to be annexed by Atlanta for taxation purposes
Right.
and
Right.
whatever else. I can see it being beneficial to some municipalities to be annexed by Huntsville because they want the work it's going to bring or the potential for another Boeing company.
Or the infrastructure that
Water,
comes,
electric,
water, all the kinds of things. So I
Yep.
think that that was somewhat happened.
Which way did they go? North?
I think one of them was west, and I think maybe one was northwest, maybe up towards
So,
up Jordan and kind of up towards Harvest.
okay. I didn't know if I told you this, but property values rising in Blountsville significantly. So last year, our property tax assessment came in. It's
Okay.
about what we paid for the property. This time, it's $45,000 higher. And they haven't even looked at the house I've built yet. You see,
Wow.
I mean, no one's come in there to,
Right.
because that was listed as no value when we bought the property. So I'm like, it between Birmingham and Huntsville, but Huntsville, it's just I think it's affecting all of these surrounding areas in terms of.
Well, I think particularly with probably Huntsville's development,
So you need to buy now, Raj.
looks like the timing is not great for me.
Well, you're trying.
Right. So anyway, I'm looking at a piece of property actually next to Bruce's in Blountsville, and
It's actually they abut. Is that the word?
yes.
And there's a little creek right there, and we're making a little bridge across the creek, and so we can like terrorize Roger's little pasture land. And Roger's looking
So
at like
much fun.
6 acres, something like that.
Right. Small. Yes, I'm not
I
wanting.
mean, we have 54, so Roger would be a peasant farmer. We would be farmer empire.
We would be right. You're the top of the hill. We're the peasants at the
You're
bottom in
down
the
the-
valley, down
in the bog.
In the bog.
In the bog.
Bog.
So the song for today, Roger, was one that I chose, and I don't know how familiar you were with it, but it's on my top 25 list, which I think would be fun to make. Like a top 25 song of all time list, just personally, because the guy did this,
Right.
and it's like fascinating to see what people listen to and what songs are meaningful to them. This song I've always loved.
So, so the fascinating counter to that is, I mean, I feel like I've maybe listened to it for the first time to this morning.
Oh, really?
So first of all, it's like, well, a couple things struck me.
Roger was not a big spoiler alert, Pink Floyd fan.
But now here's what hit me this morning as I was driving in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a hard rock driving song. It's this.
It's on my melancholy playlist.
Yeah, I was
when I
gonna
need
say.
to cry, I play this song.
But I realize, because I'm very tuned into this, I have never heard that on the radio. Pardon me, like today. So like,
Yeah. Good point. I've never heard on
the
the
best of the 80s, 90s. So our local soft rock station that plays all this music, it dawned on me.
That's interesting. I'm curious how many, like even
I have, because
it's got 1 million plays on YouTube, which is a lot because a lot of the songs we're looking at are 100,000, 400,000. But that's interesting.
So for me, now it was very interesting to listen to, and I looked up, there's
Lyrics.
a couple of like the lyrics, and so it was fascinating. And it's one of the things I love about what we're doing this year with the music thing,
Yeah.
because I love you're picking out a song
Yep.
that I haven't heard of or haven't listened to in years, or I've done the same thing for you. And
So
but I want to know top 25. What
yeah.
is it? The guitar riffs? Is it the what is
Well,
it?
musically, all right. So for our listeners, it's the song is "Comfortably Numb" by Pink Floyd. I need to look up and see how high it made on the charts way back when,
Right.
late 80s, late 70s.
Yes.
About the time that The Wall came out. You remember The Wall?
Well, I remember that.
Another brick in the wall.
Right.
All that. But what I love about that song, and I've played this for I've played, well, I haven't played it for you apparently, but I played it for Mark and other friends. I just love it. So it's on my melancholy list. It's this. Let me set the stage. The scene opens with he's backstage and he's apparently out of it, maybe stoned, out of his whatever, and so they have to have a
So this
backstage
is a
doctor.
video, a music video.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have to get a doctor. Well, and when you listen to the lyrics, you can even picture.
Yes, right.
They have to get a backstage doctor and get him ready for the show. He's got a show tonight. He's got to get. So he's like, I need some information. Where does it hurt? And he's like, there isn't any pain. And in other words, he's not in physical pain, but you get throughout the song, you start understanding he's in deep emotional pain. And he's in this state that he calls comfortably numb. So the doctor gives him an injection, and he's like, "You see if you can stand up." Oh, I think it's working good, and this will get you through the show.
Get you through the show. There's one of the lines.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it all starts. I don't know if I only noticed this because I listened to it again 3 times this morning, but I've always loved this. So
Yeah.
at the beginning, it's only brass and strings. So nothing you would like necessarily attached to Pink Floyd.
Yes.
So it's got this
Yeah.
brass and strings.
Yeah.
It's very mournful.
Hmm.
It's just a very ballady song. And then they don't introduce the guitar until after the first verse and chorus when he says comfortably numb. I've become comfortably numb. And then the guitar comes in and oh, I just had chills. It is the saddest, most mournful guitar playing that I've experienced. In other words, that's why I play it when I'm sad.
That's what's so evocative. Yeah.
And it's a song that then, after the second verse and chorus, finishes out with just guitar.
Yep.
Just this long, sad. So I picked. I'm just going right there. The reason I love this song, number one, I've thought about writing a blog post comfortably numb for Christians.
Hmm.
Because Jesus said, Marlene and I were just reading it last week together. Jesus said, be careful that your hearts don't become weighed down by dissipation, distraction, the cares of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, or the day of my coming will come on you unexpectedly like a trap. And I'm like, gosh, I think a lot of Christians, I think I've fallen into that before, where we're comfortable, but we're numb to what's really important, what really matters. And that there's a moment in the song, and he said, when I was a child, this is the saddest line. When I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look and it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. The child is grown. The dream is gone.
Yeah.
Oh my, that just makes me so sad. Because I think about my own dreams. The child is grown. It's like he's talking about his child. In both verses, he talks about his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that the dream is gone. And I thought, man, listeners, this might be really interesting. What dreams did you have as a kid that maybe never materialized? When you were young, you could see him out of the corner of he might have had, Pink Floyd might have had a dream to be a rock star. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't what he expected.
Right.
It wasn't what he wanted. He's in this place of pain, emotional pain. No, not physical pain, apparently, but this idea that the dream is gone. And I'm like, here's a guy that's most people would say is living the dream. I mean, he's rock star, for heaven's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the child has grown, the dream is gone. I don't know. That was just such a powerful lyric. And it always draws me back to, I believe that God is the giver of dreams. Not all dreams, understandably. I mean, it's not all dreams are good dreams. But, even when you look at the story of Joseph, these dreams that he had, and how God was going to use that, and the dreams that I had when I was younger that never materialized. Like, I think being the grandson of John Rice, I had this idea that one of these days I'm going to be speaking to millions of people.
Okay.
I just had this idea. I'm going to be on crusade stage speaking. It's sort of a dream. Now, not necessarily a godly dream.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can be a very celebrity-driven dream. But I'm like, yeah, that never happened. Don't see that happening. I do most of my speaking in this office to one person at a time.
Right.
I mean, in terms of speaking stuff.
Right.
And I just thought, even listening to it this morning, it made me sad. Not in a bad way, but just, what are the dreams that I had when I was young that never materialized or I didn't pursue, or frankly, I was too lazy to do anything with, because that's a little bit of my story. I don't know. What do you think about the song, listening to it one time this morning on your way in?
Oh, no. I listened to it before.
Now, granted, I didn't tell Roger about the song until 11 o'clock last night, so there wasn't a whole lot of time.
No, I listened to it this morning, and
So I get a first impression.
I
We get a first
all
impression.
right. No, it's so literally, I didn't know what to expect. Um, but kind of listening to it, this thing that hit me was and there's so many stories.
Hmm.
There's so many stories of the musicians and numbing yourself.
Yes.
So, but this isn't the first time. So how often, maybe we miss the dream. We are, the dream is that everything maybe is going to go well, so when things aren't going well, we often look for something to numb or fix that. I want a quick fix. I'm anxious. I want a quick fix. I am feeling a little down. I want a quick fix. And one of the quick fixes is
Yeah.
a drug
Yeah.
of some kind.
I hear you're feeling down. I can
Right.
ease the pain, get you on your feet again.
But what's interesting, because one part of the story of the song seems to be,
Yeah.
at least maybe the guy who wrote it, because I was looking at that, was like there was this moment, whether it was Pink or somebody else, that they were in a drug-induced stupor and they had to use a drug to get them out of that.
Uh-huh.
And it spoke to me about, like, literally, we need a drug to get us high, but then we also need a drug to get us back down.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking
It's
about
like the prescription drug that has so many side effects. You have to take four other prescription drugs to offset the
to
side
offset
effects of the one drug. And again, I think that's part of the world that we're living in. But I think what you're heading toward that I thought a lot about. In essence, this is a song about addiction,
yeah,
and it's about treating pain,
about treating or even avoiding
avoiding. Yeah,
pain or things that are not comfortable. I so
good
desperately
point.
want to be comfortable, but what if to me the song speaks about
Hmm.
that's a dead end. Are so many of our attempts, if you think about the song, looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for comfort in all the wrong places. There's so many things we need to develop the muscle of working through things that are hard. And so often a drug, a drink, something becomes a substitute for sometimes the work at where I need to feel some pain, or I need to go
Well,
through.
Roger, think about it. And using the analogy of the muscle, it is part of fitness. I've done enough
Yes,
working out at the gym over the years to know the pain that follows a workout is just for a day. Sometimes it can just be like brutal,
right,
particularly if you have a particularly hard workout. But over time, you're strengthening other muscles. Your
right.
body's getting stronger and all of that. And I think to be a healthy emotional person, you have to be able to, well, willing to is probably the right word, willing to embrace pain,
Well,
embrace suffering.
isn't this Bible word perseverance? Persevering is pushing through the pain. Look, you can't develop perseverance
Right.
with a shortcut.
You can't gain the character trait of endurance
Yes,
without enduring
right.
something.
So if I'm looking for, even if I think about like I'm not comfortable in social settings, so I've got to have a drink to get, well, it's blocking me from learning to fight through my discomfort, to work at a thing. The easier thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've done this any number of times in my life. Yes, I do love quick fixes. So I'm not putting myself, but we end up losing something precious or valuable so often with the quick fix. We so quickly want to get comfortable. We so quickly want to get out of the tension that God is wanting to use something perseverance, character, courage, compassion. There's these things that God's wanting to work. I can short circuit the process.
Well, and even it's like there has to be almost, this might be the wrong word, juxtapositions in our life that create a balance, a tension, suffering and success, joy and sorrow,
Yes, I like that.
heartache and all. It's just an interesting.
Yes.
Again, being a whole human being, and of course, Jesus, it was a whole perfect human being, and yet he endured suffering.
Right.
But the other thing that I want to talk about in relation to the song is, well, certain childhood dreams that I had are gone. The child has grown, the dream is gone. Others have not. In other words, the dream, still for me, of seeing Jesus for the first time and hearing, well done, good and faithful servant, that dream's still quite alive.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
look forward to that more now than I did 30 years ago.
Yep.
It's interesting. So there's certain dreams that are still in play, and that one's always available to us. In other words, and because I'm in a sort of a season of like, what's next? I don't know if I've talked a lot to you about a little bit about it this year,
Sure.
but I'm like, counseling's been slowing down. What, some Born to Be Wild trip is a little slowed down. So what, is that a what next moment? Is that ramp up a little more? I don't know. But I know whatever it is, I want to be pursuing the kingdom of heaven, helping people, serving others, and that dream we can have all of the rest of our life.
Yep.
When I think about mom and dad, because I've given a lot more thought to mom and dad since they passed, which is interesting. I know they would have loved me to thought more of them while they were alive,
Right.
visited more often.
Suddenly, Bruce thought about actually calling them,
I was
and
like,
he never.
I can't call them. But I was thinking about just how they lived their life, and Dad always wanted to be useful. That was the word that he used a lot. I always wanted to be useful. Always wanted to be pursuing purpose. Mom always wanted to be doing things, ministering to people. I wanted to be ministering to people, serving others.
Right.
And I'm like, so part of that's the legacy that they've handed off, but some of that's also built into, I think, just the teaching of Jesus. Work for the night is coming when no man can work. I'm like, yeah, we've been given work to do. I want to keep doing that.
Yep.
That dream, it's not gone.
No, and here's where I think um, every day, then whatever pain or difficulty or challenge or blocked goal or whatever, one of the realities that hit me recently is just each one of those is a moment for God to do some work, to do something. Um, the phrase can't remember. Okay, you can tell me. So on the farm, we're staying at Grandma and Grandpa's house, you know, and I knock over a glass of milk. Oh, I'm so sorry, grandmother. It was just an accident. What did she say?
I don't remember. I semi remember the event
No, this could be any. I'm almost making up a, but
scenario.
yeah, if you told grandmother, oh, it was just an accident, she would say,
There's no such thing as accidents.
yes. She would say, there's no such thing as accidents. And by that, she meant,
I never remember that.
yes.
Maybe you tip things over more.
No, it's just, I remember her saying,
That's
this was
interesting.
one of her phrases, or maybe it was, it was me all the time. Glutzo Roger.
Running into things.
Daddy did it again.
He mowed over his sister.
But
And it's so funny that I don't remember that because I was the one that was always saying, well, if I did do it,
it was,
it was an accident. Certainly grandma would have used that line on me.
I,
I think my grandma just said, you're just lying. All right. It wasn't about accidents that's
I think you might have used that. Excuse me. Anyway, um,
interesting trivia from Roger about grandma that I didn't remember.
but where I was going with it is where God brought it around for me is okay. I think there can actually be times when you're careless, and so there's, but what God was reminding me is nothing accidental happens in my life. No blocked goal, no small thing, no big thing.
Mm.
And all these things remember that God's at the center of the world. There's that proverb, I'm making my plans. A man has purpose in his heart, but the purposes of God prevail. In other words, the idea, we're making our little plans. I'm in the middle of a larger story. But what it means is everything I'm encountering today, and I'm thinking of this pain, difficulty, discomfort, I need to pay attention to what God's up to. This is not an accident.
No.
I'm not going through this difficulty, even this wrong that someone's doing to me.
Right. And that's it. And
It's all within God's.
it's what I alluded to in my book. This, I say, the seeming randomness of suffering.
Right.
It seems random,
Yep.
but God's always doing something in that moment.
And that seems to be one of the primary points of the book of Job.
Yeah.
It's certainly one of this big takeaway is nothing is random and nothing is outside of God's control.
Nothing being the key word. So I read a great quote by Elizabeth Elliot this week, and it's just something I've been pondering. I didn't think I was going to share it this morning, but she said,
Share it.
she said, if indeed you believe in a God who is concerned about the big things in your life and in the world, you must also believe in a God who cares about the littlest things in your life. And I'm like, that's really good. In other words, there's part of me that wants to confine God to a sort of humanness, which is there's only so much that he can manage at one time.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
So he'll focus on the
He's
most
going to
important
focus on the
things.
big things, like world leadership.
Right.
But I'm like, no. God is infinite. There's no way for us to even, because it's infinite. We're finite. The finite can never fully realize the infinite.
Right.
But it helped me go, he does care about the little things in my life. And I was even praying through like fixing the truck. I'm like, Lord, because I'm on the side of the road in 85 degrees. I'm like, Lord, I need your help because this is not coming, did not come together quickly. It's like a 4-hour process. Although I will say, I was very proud of myself for putting a serpentine belt and a pulley on the front of a truck with very rudimentary hand tools. I mean, like from the 60s. They're the loaner tools from, no, actually, O'Reilly's was great. They gave me a breaker bar, which is the easiest way to get this tensioner pulley off the thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was awesome. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that. What was I saying?
We're all over the
See
place.
what I mean about youth being wasted on the young? Because we have so much more to say and we can't remember it now.
It's just the smallest things.
Oh yeah, I was talking about praying about the small
Right.
things. Yeah.
But for me, the great thing with that is it's this, then it provides this almost moment to moment invitation to walk it out with God. Because if God is actively at work in the smallest things.
Yep.
Like yesterday, I'm running errands and I just had this long string of just missing all the lights.
Which is your favorite?
Which I love. I love a lot.
He does. I'm not gonna lie.
But this is actually what started to birth this idea. That wasn't an accident. In other words, as small as that. So it's an invitation to just pay attention, talk to God. That God being in control of everything is an invitation to walk with him with everything. The small things, the big things, it's not just, we tend to think, God's super concerned about the big things. But the little things, those aren't, no. There's no knock on the door that is accidental. There's no, so it reminds me then when I open that door, every knock on the door is an interruption for me. And I can think of it as an interruption. What I need to think about is every knock on the door is an invitation to walk in whatever God's purposing in that moment. That person's not at the door by accident. Doesn't mean I have to spend an hour with them or that I'm got to lead them to Jesus or I've got to do this or I'm simply saying that's not the smallest things. It's not an accident, which can actually help me become less irritated. It wasn't in my plan, which is what's frustrating me. Did not have on my agenda today. My homeless friend stops and knocks on the door today.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. Oh, but this was God's.
And that's a great word. So one of the things that I wrote down for this year, at the beginning of the year, because I don't do resolutions, but I just wrote down some, I don't know, statements of purpose. Marlene and I did a lot of work on our marriage, like a purpose for our marriage. One of the things that I wrote down for me was people over projects.
Yeah.
because I love to get things done. Back to the I can do more than I've ever been able to do. I love projects. I love working on projects. And I don't like interruptions to those projects.
People are interruptions.
People can be interruptions to that. And I found myself all year, praise God, just setting aside the project, listening, talking, engaging.
I've gotten much better. Now, that would sound like I'm doing really well. I'm just saying I've gotten much better, which is how I
Roger's not doing well.
right. But it is because I have these things I'm gonna
But
I love
that
that
I even have
people
to-
over
The
projects.
fact that I even have to say that tells you a lot about me.
Yeah.
In other words, when I'm coming into the office counseling, people aren't interruption. That is my work, and that's
Right.
that's a vocational thing. It's like when me time. I've got some me time. I want to work on a project. I want to get something done around the farm. The temptation is to just get stuck on that and not, but someone calls and they're like, hey, can you talk? And I'm like, absolutely. And just sit down. And in other words, I can't keep doing the project. I might do that with you. Like I'm on the phone with Roger and I'm going to keep doing the project.
Right.
But other people are just going to stop and going to be completely focused and engaged.
You fill out the moment. I wonder if this isn't getting back around actually weirdly to the song at some level. When I'm talking it,
which is what we're supposed to be doing.
oh, we don't have to anyway.
We don't have to do anything.
We can do whatever we'd like, dear.
You're not the boss of me,
listener.
Well, that's great. Listener, viewer, you're not the boss of us. We're
gonna do whatever we want to do.
You can't have two dreamers. You'll be homeless in a night. Now that I was thinking about that on the way because he talked about the dream being gone. I was like, that's one of the best Nate Bargatze lines ever. It's why you have a dreamer in the marriage, and then you have a person that's no fun. So you can't have two dreamers. You'll be homeless in an hour. So good.
Well, what I was thinking is I think again, so often our efforts to make things easier.
Yeah.
We don't want blocked goals. So we're getting a series of blocked goals. So I didn't get this thing done. I'm frustrated.
We don't want the interruption of suffering, pain, difficulty.
But if I'm looking at, okay, I'm frustrated. At the end of the day, some people kept interrupting, whatever. So I'm frustrated. And now I need something to knock the edge off my frustration. Well, here's the thing. Had I been more in the moment and realized, okay, God's at work. People are more important than that. Isn't that its own medicine? What I look at the end of the day, when I've put people over projects and I've learned to see God at work there, I'm developing a muscle that is Roger not at the center of the world. Because I realize my frustration is built around the world should revolve around me.
Roger, think of it. Let's tell them both. I'm going to tell them both of us.
Yeah.
Because it happened this morning. When I'm irritated because someone, the audacity, is in the left lane driving less than the speed limit or only slightly over, I find myself irritated like, this is my lane. This is my kingdom. This is my world. Everything in the left lane revolves around Bruce. And you, peasant person who doesn't know how to drive, is in the left lane. And I just had to confess that, going, that's just stupid. That is so pathetic to imagine that people should, oh, Bruce is coming. Let's get out of the way. What? Oh, God. Terrible.
I'm suddenly concerned about people keeping the law and obeying the laws.
I thought those actual words, slower traffic, keep right. Don't you know the law? When they're probably thinking, well, 55 is also the speed limit through here. Mr. Johnson that's driving 108.
Yes. Which I have zero concern about me speeding.
Right.
I have,
but I have great concerns about you slowing.
Right. Which everything comes down to me.
Slowing me down.
Me. And isn't this part of the medicine?
Who knew this was going to be so convicting?
Where God is, part of his saving us is reminding us we are not at the center of the world. We are not, and this is what the blocked goals for me, this is what the long traffic lights that I just missed. This is what the left person driving slowly in the left lane. This is the knock on the door. These are all reminders the world's bigger than me. So I need to pay attention to the God who made the world. I need to pay, what are you up to, God?
Yeah.
When it gets away. But here's the thing. Ultimately, there's this kind of peace. In the moment, it's very hard. I'm not, and I don't always do the right thing. But at the end of the day, when I do, it's funny. I'll end up having conversation when I actually tune into well, I'm actually doing more of what I was made for. I wasn't made for the world to revolve around me. I was actually made to love and serve people.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to find our greatest satisfaction in pausing for people, in serving,
Yeah.
in giving up something, some plan I had, or I was going to use this money for this, and I decide to give it. Well, it is more blessed. There is this counterintuitive, you
Yeah,
know,
and the other thing about persevering under trial, because Jesus talked about that, persevering through
right.
even difficulty and problems and trial and persecution and other things. I realized last night after we had taken all those parts off the truck. In other words, in my mind, I always wanted it to be easy. There's four bolts on this sucker. We're gonna take four bolts out,
Set them right over here.
set 'em right over
I know
here.
right where they
We're gonna
are.
put this new part back on. We're gonna put four bolts in it, and we're gonna drive off. Put the serpentine belt back on. That did not happen. We had to take off, five major parts, components to get to that. But I realized at the end, the satisfaction of when we shut the hood and turned it on and it was perfect. Both of us, Zach and I both, were like, we just did something.
Yeah.
I mean, we just did a thing. The satisfaction is so much greater than screwing in a light bulb.
Right.
As satisfying as that is, click. We want it to be that simple. And maybe that's even part of the problem of comfortably numb. I want to stay comfortable no matter what,
Right.
even if I'm numbed out. So the problem with being numb, and I'll finish with this, but for me, I remember there's a time where I was on a depression medication that was not working for me, and here's why. It made me feel numb. In other words, it took away the low, but I could no longer experience any kind of high. In other words, I
Okay.
didn't anticipate anything, wasn't desiring anything, wasn't looking forward to anything.
Yeah.
In other words, I couldn't feel joy. I wasn't feeling sorrow or anger, but I wasn't experiencing joy either. And I'm like, I can't do it. It's numb was worse than the bandwidth of both of those that we have to not that we that we can be willing to live in. I'll put it
Right.
that way. We can be willing to live in those. So if you found yourself, I just want to be comfortable, know this: God is the God of uncomfortableness, and He calls us to uncomfortable spaces, but there's beautiful things that He does. It's even like, I'm sure for so many people, when we moved the church that we were leading at the time into the projects, which was a very different world. But once we pressed through the discomfort, I'm just telling my story,
Yep.
the discomfort of different cultures and different socioeconomic worlds, but you got on the other side of it. I'm like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
This looks like the kingdom of heaven. And I realized,
Mhm.
but you had to get. I think a lot of times even churches don't end up becoming diverse churches because it's so uncomfortable
Right. We'll
for
find it.
that to happen.
We'll find an easy alternative. We'll find something. This will.
A homogenous community that looks
Yeah,
like me, sounds like
We
me,
want this to be.
cultured like me.
But all of our efforts to take discomfort or hard work or stress or tension out, to just eliminate them, work against the good God wants to do, works against. So I think about, like, you and Zach are working on this. You get in the middle, and this just turned out to be far bigger than it is. And all of us had those moments where I just want to give up. Let's go get drinks. Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go. But you miss when we take the easy way out, the thing that makes us comfortably numb, that just sort of, when we numb out difficulty, blocked goal, and I've had this just isn't working. Um, well, the alternative, trying to be comfortably numb, taking that out, you miss that satisfaction moment at the end when you and Zach is like, we pressed through,
We pressed through
we
to do the
worked,
thing.
we did it, and there's this particular kind of satisfaction.
And I realized we had to do it last night. We couldn't stop in the middle because there was no way we were getting all those things back on in the same place again.
Right.
We can't, like, okay, we'll start again tomorrow.
Oh, you still remember.
While we remember, we took
Good
off
point.
this in this order. We got to put it back in that order. Otherwise, we'd come the next day and go, what's that? I mean, what's that thing?
Or you put it all back together. there's this plate and 3 bolts here.
Exactly. So Zach actually has a sign in his garage says if there aren't parts left over, you did it wrong. And I'm like, okay.
Kids these days.
Kids these days. Here's what I want to finish with our viewers.
Finish it. Bring.
I love
Bring us home,
what
Bruce.
you said about pressing through the discomfort of pain and problems and difficulty and versus addiction and numbing pain and all of that. Endure. Jesus endured suffering, according to Scripture, for the joy set before him.
Yes.
There's joy on the other side of that. There's glory on the other side of that. The second thing, and I was struck with this morning, is if you're listening and this whole idea of the child has grown, the dream is gone. If that statement stirs something in you, I want you to think about what was the dream. And is it something you can still pursue? Like at 61, I'm not going to be a NASCAR driver. That's a dream I cannot pursue. I mean, I can
You
pursue
don't even
it for
recognize
about
them.
20 seconds, and it'll be like, get away from us. But there are things that even as we age, there's still dreams that we can pursue. I love that scripture in Acts, well, in Amos, and then quoted by Peter in Acts says, in these days, the days that we live in, the Spirit is going to be poured out, and I will give young men dreams and old men visions. Visions and dreams for young and old. The idea is it's for young and old. So don't let a dream die with you. If there's something that God's put in your heart to do, don't think I can't do that anymore, unless it's something like becoming a professional football player and you're 61. That's not going to happen.
So sorry.
But what are the dreams you can pursue? Do that. Don't let that statement, the child has grown, the dream is gone, be like a defining statement
Of your life.
That's a terrible word, Roger. It's too soon. Now, at some point last night, Zach said, we were cutting up and he goes, your mama. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, Dad. Too soon. It's too soon. He's good. All right, kids. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Most likely.